Time now is 7:21. Coming to terms with the loss of a loved one is difficult and upsetting, but now a leading charity says it can take more than 2 years to begin to feel better.
Research for the hospice charity Sue Ryder found that it can take people much longer to cope with their bereavement if they don't discuss it with other people.
Yes, it also says that men are less likely to do so. Let's hear the experiences of one group in Manchester.
About a year and a half ago, I lost my mum through cancer. It does take a lot of time to come to terms with losing someone, especially someone very close. It took me a year before I actually turned around and said, yes, I could do with some support, I could do with some help.
In my experience, males are just like text you, I'll see you at the pub in 10 minutes kind of thing. We never actually have a conversation on the phone. I think that's something that males generally don't do, and I think it would be good if males did more of that,
I suppose it could be seen as a bit of a sign of weakness if you're seen as always letting out your feelings and you're crying on someone else's shoulder. I think it's quite a difficult thing for men in general.
There's definitely no time limit because it is still there with you. You have to cope with it.
So that's the view of how men perhaps deal with bereavement. What is the best way to deal with a loss? Well, with us now is Sam Cheverton, who's an Assistant Director of Palliative Services at Sue Ryder. Welcome. And Emily Urban-Smith. And Emily, you lost your mum 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
And I imagine this is going to be very difficult to talk about because especially when we hear the charity saying it takes more than 2 years to move on after a bereavement. What happened to your mum?
My mum had secondary breast cancer, and we had about 2 years, really, I guess, to prepare for it. She went into Sue Ryder Hospice approximately about a month before she died, and they were just absolutely wonderful. They really cared for her and our family towards the end of their life. They became our second family, really. It was absolutely, an awful time, but they just made us feel really at ease. My dad particularly spent, every single day there with my mum, and right up until the night before they gave him a bed, so he could stay with my mum the night before. They were just absolutely wonderful and kind of really made the process much easier.
And that's how you as a family coped with your mum passing. But often it's after the loved one has passed that the difficulties come in. And what was your experience after she passed?
Yeah, I think, in the weeks kind of after, you've got a lot of, family, friends support, everybody's rallying around you. And then I think as the weeks go by, it all kicks in really that she's really gone. I mean, I come from a very, very tight-knit family. And without my family and friends, and their support, I would have not got through it like I did. And with the help of my counsellor Eve at Sue Ryder, who was just absolutely wonderful. I went there and, have my sessions and sometimes I just cry with her and other times I talk or just get angry. Grief is just such a kind of ongoing thing. It's, grief doesn't go away. I still miss my mum just as much today as I did, 2 years ago. It's just how you deal with it. And that's what Sue Ryder did for me. Just, it's that kind of soundboard to help me deal with my grief.
Yeah, Sam, you're nodding as Emily was recounting her experience there. Lots of people watching this will have suffered bereavement themselves. There's no rights and wrongs about how you deal with bereavement, is there? Some people react very differently, and it's something you have to plot somehow your course through.
That's absolutely right. I think it's really difficult. I think you might have an opinion of how you might cope thinking ahead, but actually when it happens to you, it's such a devastating thing to happen, to lose a loved one, that quite often you react in a way that you didn't expect at all. And grief is, as you say, incredibly individual. There's no right or wrong. There's not even really a normal. And the statistics which have shown over 2 years, a lot of people take a lot longer. A lot of people take a lot quicker as well. What did show, though, that those who were able to speak to people and get support about their emotions did help them be able to get through grief a little bit better, and we were able to cope a little bit better.
I was interested, they made particular reference, and we heard from some men a moment ago, about whether there are necessarily differences between the way men react and women react. What was it in your family? Did you see differences? Were some of the men less able to share their emotions? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of more like my mum in the sense, I want to talk about everything. So I knew that counsellor would really help me because I just want to talk things out. My dad and my brother Will, I just don't think they necessarily needed to. They felt that they got their support from other sources, family, friends. other members. I think, you know, had the online community of Sue Ryder been available, they might have gone online, but I think they just felt that they didn't need it in comparison to me.
Do you think they're at a different stage to you? Because you were saying, of course, you miss your mum as much as you did when she passed 2 years ago, but do you think they coped as well as you have with bereavement?
I think they just coped in different ways. I mean, it's very hard, you know. Obviously, for my brother Will, he's lost his mum like I have. For my dad, you know, my dad and mum were married for 34 years, so, you know, he's lost his soulmate. I think, you know, you deal with grief in different ways, and what Eve, my counsellor, made me realise is, you know, one person's so different from another. How I might react to it is different from my dad or my brother, and, you know, actually, when you're such a tight-knit family like we were, you necessarily can't rely on each other for that, because everyone else is dealing with their grief, so you need to kind of, I guess, outsource it in a way to other people and help you deal with it.
And Sam, there are many other services available, aren't there? Charities that help,
There are,
as well as yours.
Yeah, there's lots of expert bereavement services around the country. I think what's interesting is that not everybody has access to them, or people might not realise that they need them, or perhaps even have the confidence to ask for them. And that's why in Sue Ryder we've created the online community, because as Emily says, it's not face-to-face. That can help people sometimes, and they can log on anonymously and listen to other people's experiences, and hearing that actually you're not alone can help reduce the isolation and can help people start to feel a little bit more able to cope.
Sam, thank you very much. Emily, thank you. I know you're very nervous talking to us today, but you tell yourself very well, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.